So customers, I think it's been reflected on earlier today. Clearly the customer's voice has been absolutely fundamental to the business plan that's been created, signed off, and which everyone in this room is now part of delivering. Alan clearly can say a lot more about the extent to which that was carried out, but it is a first for us and a first for the industry probably, the extent to which the customer's voice is at the heart of that business plan. And I think that for me creates a really interesting challenge. So we've embedded customers in the business plan. How do we make sure that cascades its way all the way through the process? We've then got the strategies and the plans that follow on from that. We've then got the delivery, and finally at the end of the day, we've got someone doing something on a site or out in the road, in the public, where we actually touch the customer. That's the point at which we really touch the customer. So for me, there's some real challenges and opportunities in this room around how we do that. Now, with the customer service, we've set an ambition of always listening and delivering exceptional service to our customers. And I've, I think, shared some of that with a number of you at a session that Paul organised in Glasgow probably three or 4 months ago, which is great. But for me, that's what it's all about. It's thinking through the implications of what that means. And I think it creates some real challenges for any delivery vehicle, because day to day, you'll be dealing with your health and safety challenges, you'll be dealing with your efficiency challenges, with your programme challenges, and actually getting groups of people to do things, build assets, construct things. And at the same time, we're asking you to also make sure that customer is still there at the forefront of your mind, rather than something that sits away back somewhere. And I say that because having been involved in delivery, and I can say this quite openly in CID, there are very, very few examples where we actually had the customer's voice at the heart of our decision making. Most of the time, we probably nominally took a customer view, we interpreted a customer's view, we decided what we thought was right for the customer. Very, very rarely do we really get the customer's voice in at the front in the decision making. And I have to say, one of the few examples, and not overplaying this, one of the few examples where the customer's voice was really at the heart of the decision making, and all the way through that process was a project like Glencore's. Very different, I know, to some of the infrastructure type projects, but nonetheless, it was a really good example. And I'm not just saying that because B&B are in the room. To me, that was a really set the benchmark actually in some cases in terms of that approach. So there's a challenge. How do you make sure that customer voice stays in the organisation? We've had a number of presentations in our customer service space where we've been given that challenge. Phrases like, how do you make sure the customer's voice rings round your business, echoes round your business was the phrase that was used by an external speaker we had from Consumer Focus. That to me was a really, really good challenge. If you think about it, how do we all encourage that and make sure that is at the centre of the decisions you're making, the decisions you're taking, and plays all its way through. So the part of the organisation I'm in now, I've got groups of people out, using that phrase, digging holes in the road. Those are customer ambassadors. Those are the people that actually, in some cases, have the biggest impact on what we do and the customer's response. If we get it right, it's fantastic. Again, those of you who've seen some of the comments we get in the feedback systems like Repeat, Rant and Rave, we get some fantastic examples of guys who've done things in a customer's vicinity. Maybe they've been digging the road, maybe they've opened up the roadway in front of their house, they've done all sorts of things that have the potential to create mayhem, and yet we get fantastic feedback because they did the right things. They spoke to the customer, they actually explained to the customer what they were doing, they conversed with them. They took consideration of what the customer's needs were. Was the customer going out? Did the customer need help? Did the customer need support in any other way? They just really recognised the impact they could have, and they made it work. And then conversely, day in, day out, we'll see the opposite. We'll see people going out to do a job who took no account of the customer. They didn't speak to the customer, they didn't explain what they were doing. They actually made no effort to address the customer's concerns. We get low scores, and perhaps more worryingly, that's when we get the snotty letter to the chief exec about how incompetent we are, and it's just typical of Scottish Water as a monopoly organisation in the public sector. So the reason I say all that, it's a fantastic opportunity through this capital programme and through these alliances to do something fantastic for customers, to really reach that ambition in terms of Scotland's most valued and trusted business. It's a great opportunity, but I'm very conscious that it brings some challenges in terms of how you bring that customer voice into your business, how you make sure that customer's voice is balanced with some of the other priorities, and how you ensure, as I say, day in, day out, that people out there are actually as committed to the customer as I'm sure you are, as I know we are, a bit like the whole partner ethos, is making sure that message is spread throughout the organisation.
was asked to talk around about was what really matters to us at CSD, what do we pride ourselves on and what are we struggling with. From the point of view of what really matters to us, first on my agenda always is the health, safety and well-being of our team. We put a lot of effort into that and engagement with our team, making sure that we do the right thing in that environment. And what's important for that is that new build takes that into account as well. I was on a site just the other week. It's one of the 20-year-old sites, kind of halfway through the Rods era. But I'm thinking, who the hell designed? Who designed this? It's kind of not something we built today, which is good. Next for me was effective communications, and that just isn't in this environment. That's across the board. What really irritates me, very conscious of the recording thing. What really irritates me is the expectation that if someone sends an email, it will necessarily get a response. As I was saying to Alan, I picked up one the other day, which was in response to my email of this date, that date, and the other date, you haven't replied to me yet. And there's a simple answer to that, which is pick up the phone. I hate emails. Delivering on promises, so do what you say you'll do, and that applies to me too and my team. A bit in there where we've kind of come a cropper in the past is managing deferrals, so managing projects which would perhaps have been SR6 deferred to SR10, and then we end up picking up Gales, springs to mind for example. So we don't always necessarily understand the implications of doing that. So there are operational implications to deferring projects. It isn't just a matter of moving it from one period to the next. What matters to us as well is good value. We've talked about it before. I mean, not gold-plated, but something that will work and will be in the long-term sort of resilience. That doesn't mean to say it's always cheap, but something that will enable us to operate the asset at a sensible level of OPEX going forward. Early engagement on projects generally, so sufficient notice and early engagement. Our part in that is to make sure we've got guys who are available to engage, but as early as possible. And in amongst all that, taking account of what was mentioned earlier on, the operational resilience of what we build. So it's important we're able to operate it effectively. And my number one bugbear is what really matters to me personally is effective and what works in wastewater treatment works. So effective front-end screening. I can think of a number of places just now that cause me kind of complete headaches because we just don't have that, and I'm trying to think 2014 and we've got a major worse in Glasgow where inlet screens are just rubbish. So how did we get there? What do we pride ourselves on? The flexibility of our staff and the fact that you pick up the phone any time of the day, you'll get people to come out and help. I think that's really good. It applies to the delivery partners as well. There's always somebody there. Customer service, Mark mentioned that too. It's at the heart of what we do. It's important to us, and that's the first one of our first thoughts too. A lot of experienced operators. The age profile is not different actually to anywhere else in the water industry. It's all up at one end, like me, Rod, and a few others at that side of the table. It tends to be at that end. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but a hell of a lot of experience there, and kind of touched on it earlier, supporting each other through whatever we need to do. So if something really nasty happens, then we rally together and get things done. What we're struggling with at the moment, I'll be honest, we struggle a bit with time management. One of my guys calls it time thieves, people who kind of come in your day and take your time away that you never get back. And there's always places to go to find that information. It's not always the same person that you need to ask all the time. We're struggling, a real desire to move to a planned environment, but we struggle with that, and I think part of that is because some of the guys actually quite like sliding down poles and dealing with problems. But we're a real push to move towards a planned environment. One area we really struggle with at the moment is engagement with our regulators. There's wide differences between SEPA centrally and the area teams, and that's quite difficult to difficult to work with, but a real challenge. Struggling with propping up some of our assets, some of our assets that are a little bit tired and have seen better days. We love them dearly, but it's time for them to go. That's not a reference to me and Rod again. And the last thing, I think if there's one thing that for me seems actually quite a simple thing to resolve, it's ink signatures for sign off. If we could solve that, I think that would be really good.